We're ready.
All right.
All right. All right, whenever you're ready.
We're here with Joe Chambers at Jazz 88, legendary jazz drummer, worked with so many greats in jazz over the years. Just finished a great show here at the Seville Theater. Joe, welcome to Jazz 88. It's been a pleasure having you in town and here at Jazz 88 tonight.
All right. Yes, my pleasure to be here. Sunny San Diego.
So you've got a little quartet that you brought in tonight with some of San Diego's finest musicians. We've got
That's right.
Magnuson on bass, Duncan Moore on the drums, and Rob Whitlock on piano.
And we got Trip Sprague. It's going to come in on tenor.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah,
nice. That's
Trip's
great.
going to play second half, I guess you could call it.
So Joe Chambers, one of the legendary jazz drummers, worked with, God, you've been with everybody over the years, from Freddie Hubbard to Max Roach and Sam Rivers, Chick Corea, Joe Henderson. The list is just incredible. I mean, we're happy that you have made it here to San Diego and shared some of your drum skills and vibe skills with us tonight.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I've mentioned that. Yeah, I'm now calling myself a mallet player. Of course, a percussionistic. Yes, that's it. That's a term, though. You got to really focus on that. You know, the percussionist has to be well schooled and cover a lot of instruments, which the mallet instruments. That'd be the vibraphone, marimba, are part of that. And so I'm really going in that direction.
Well, I know that you did so many albums with Bobby Hutcherson, the great vibraphonist, and I know also you worked with M. Boom, with Max Roach, with all the great percussionists, with Freddie Waits, and Ray Mantilla, lots of greats, Omar Clay, etc. And I'm wondering when you moved into vibes and started
At that point.
It was the Boom
At
thing?
that point, yeah.
Yeah.
1970. That was the launching point, I guess you could say, because I always played what I consider a ranger's piano. You know, I could get over the piano a little bit, like a lot of musicians can. So I had the keyboard skills, so it really wasn't difficult to move to marimbas and vibes with the keyboard skills that I already had. And it was at that point that I started to really get into it.
Yeah, it's kind of a combo of keyboard skills and drum
Drumming,
skills.
that's
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
that's right.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I always liked M. Boom. I especially like some of the stuff that was done where you hear the melody played on the timpani. That was like Blue Monk and
Yeah, right.
Epistrophe, and
Right.
yeah, that's some happening stuff. Yeah, too bad that's not happening any longer. But M. Boom, a great percussion ensemble.
Yeah, well, it's percussion is not only it presents a cartage problem. You got when we did tour, we did some tours in the late '70s. Of course, Max Roach put all of that together. We did a few tours to Europe, and I mean the cost of carrying our stuff was more than the cost of us individually, our flight ticket costs.
I never thought about that. Yeah, that's true.
We had upwards to sometimes $8,000-9,000 in costs in carrying cartage costs, fees.
Wow. Yeah, that's got to be a hindrance.
Yeah, it's a problem.
And not to mention the actual physical exertion of carrying all that stuff.
Well, we had to carry about 6-7 roadies.
Yeah, I imagine
you
so.
know, so it's a big situation.
Your latest release, Outlaw, is doing really well. That was a 2006 recording that you mentioned earlier when we talked, is getting some good reviews and selling fairly well.
Yeah, it's doing good. It's doing, steady.
That's always good.
Steady. That's what a.
So your early days, you lived in D.C., I remember, and the early 60s, 60 to 63,
Right.
You were doing work around D.C. with some big names, right?
Well, I was in a place where I had a steady job, so to speak. We were in a place called the Caverns, Bohemian Caverns, a very famous club, D.C., from old Crystal Caverns. We were there. I was there 3 years, 6 nights a week, 3 years. And it was really an experience to learn. I studied too down there. I went to American U, but I met everybody that would come through D.C. That is all of the touring groups, Miles, Coltrane, Freddie Up the Blue, Messengers, everybody. They would all come down, and so that was my intro into New York, so to speak.
Yeah, that was great exposure as a youngster on drums, huh?
Oh yeah,
all the
absolutely.
heavyweights. And you guys backed Dolphy, right?
Right, yeah. Eric came in, and we backed him for about a month, and subsequently, when I came to New York, that was my first job, was with Eric Dolphy.
How old were you?
How old was I? Ooh, geez, 20, must have been 21, something like that.
Wow, those are some heavy memories, I imagine. Yeah. And didn't Coltrane come through?
Oh yeah, Train came through. Well, he came through with his group though.
Uh-huh.
He came and took about a 3-week gig there at the Caverns, and because it was our place. That place was our job. That group was called the JFK Quintet, and yeah, it was our steady job. But we took off for Coltrane and a few other situations.
If you had to give some advice to a jazz drummer out in the world today to kind of aid him in succeeding, and some advice about longevity in the business, what would you tell them?
Well, I would tell him or her, as I do as a teacher, you should prepare yourself to be complete. That is to say, learn all the aspects of music and get your theory, learn how to write, learn how to compose and arrange, so that you can get places in the music field. For example, when I was recording all of the dates for Blue Note, I never got a drum chart. I always got the piano chart, and I read off of that, and consequently, I knew the songs that I was playing. I knew them thoroughly because I knew what was happening with it.
Yeah,
totally
makes sense.
So I would tell a drummer, I would tell him to first try to be a percussionist. Then that is to say, because you be a percussionist, then you can. I think playing mallets is mandatory for a drummer. Should be. And we are making that mandatory in the school that I'm teaching at. So that is so he can be broad and not be stuck, so to speak.
I think that's good advice. We're here with Joe Chambers tonight. I'm Barry Farrar here on Jazz 88 KSDS San Diego. Joe, you mentioned where you're teaching. Where is that? Where are you teaching?
The New School University.
Oh, okay, New School. Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, the New School University.
I heard Jimmy Cobb was there, but that might have been quite a few years back.
Yeah, a few years back.
Okay.
But they have a strong program there. As you know, this jazz education thing is really big, and they're having their so-called the IAJE is in New York this year.
Right, and you mentioned you're going to play with a big band, right?
Yes,
Tell us about that.
Yes, I am. Well, I'm going to play with the school, University of North Carolina Central University, their orchestra. I just did a residency there in November, and they're going to be there, and I'm going to play with them. I think I'm going to play about 2-3 times with that group.
Now, these are up-and-coming young musicians, right?
Oh yeah, they're college
College
students.
kids,
Yeah,
okay,
they're college kids. This is a killing band though. This band, because at the IJ, you're familiar with IJ.
Right,
you know,
right.
The IJ is a lot of people speak, but that is really some kind of a networking situation, because you have who's there. Not only all the colleges and universities in this country, as well as abroad. Groups from Europe and France, and they're coming there. And plus, you got all the agents come there, all the managers, all the club owners, and all of the record people are usually floating around there. So it's a really some kind of a networking thing.
Yeah, that could be great for some young musicians to meet the right guys, and you never know what could happen.
Well,
Record deals.
I've always, excuse me, Nero, but some our school has been there, and you know I've gone there through the school, but in the last few years I've always gotten something out of it. That is to say, something has happened as a result of me being there, meeting people. I've gotten clinics, I've gotten situations, residencies like that, and so.
Worthwhile in a lot of ways. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
great. Everybody benefits from something like that.
Plus, it's a nice hang too.
So you got to get back to New York to do that. How soon is that? That IAJ?
Well, the IJ starts tomorrow. Tomorrow's the first day.
Wow, you do have to get back.
And my flight is, I was telling you, 7:40 a.m. I had to get up and get out and
Right.
And get back in time for rehearsals, etc.
Well, you know, as I mentioned earlier, it's such a pleasure for us to finally get Joe Chambers here in San Diego. Joe and I have talked on Percussive Profiles a number of times over the years, and many phone calls as well, trying to figure out ways to get Joe here. And I'll tell you, Joe, it's great to have you finally here in San Diego, and it's like a dream come true to see you come play here, right here at Jazz 88.
I'm glad to be here. I'll tell you one thing, I'm coming back.
I like that.
I'm coming
I
back.
like that.
I can see why people are moving out here.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, and after tonight's show, I'll tell you what, the people are going to want you to come back too, because what a great show. Now, Joe, I know you got to go, but I want to ask you another question. You mentioned earlier in the week when we talked about a project that you've been kind of planning, the drums around the world. That's of a lot of interest to us here on the drum world.
Yeah, I'm going to extend. As a matter of fact, the Outlaw, in many ways, is kind of a drums around the world. If you really check it out, there's a Brazilian element, there's a African bembe, there's an African piece, and then it's very Wawanko, the Afro-Cuban thing, and it's jazz. So I'm going to try to expand on that idea to do percussion and drums in various that is to say, various cultures across the world, and incorporate it in a jazz context. Now, Philly Joe Jones did an album like that years ago, way back, so it's not a new thing, but his album wasn't so specifically related to other cultures, but I mean, he had an album titled that. But as I did the Outlaw and I looked at it, I said, well, this is kind of like a drums around the world here. You know, we got the Bahia.
That's a great record, I'll tell you what, the Outlaw. It's getting a lot of play, and it's not only Vince Outlaw that's playing it, I'll tell you. It's all of us here at Jazz 88. It's a great record, and glad it's doing really well for you.
Yeah, it's doing as well as an NPR record can do.
Well, once again, Joe, I want to thank you for everyone here at the station for coming out and sharing your music with us here at the City College Theater, Seville Theater tonight. It's been a wonderful show, and just been a pleasure meeting you and hanging out a little bit, and I hope we can do this again soon.
All right, definitely. Well, like I said, I'm coming back, that's for sure. Well,
That sounds great. Yeah, we have some festivals and stuff, you know.
Oh,
We
yeah.
might be able to get some things hooked up here.
I'm
And
coming
one more
back
time,
from vacation.
yeah, well, that too. Why don't you let the listeners know how they can pick up your record? I know it's available, but it's called The Outlaw, and what's the label?
High Note Savant. High
And-
Note Savant. They're in the stores, Borders or whatever. Towers, what's left of Towers, and
Not much.
right, and whatever else they do. I think they do. There's an online situation they got going, but it is definitely in the stores for people who still go out to stores and buy records. Plus, you could probably order from them, and the Savant High Note, you could look them up on the internet.
Sounds good, Joe. We're looking
Right.
forward to talking. You know, we can keep this going here on Percussive Profiles, checking with you here and there on the phone and find out what's going on with Joe and see how that Drums Around the World is coming.
All right.
Thanks again.
Okay,
Joe
thank
Chambers on Jazz 88.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Hey,
I
Joe?
had some
Yeah.